First contact in the dark. The research vessel Horizon drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt, its sensors probing the darkness between distant stars. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her station, eyes fixed on the quantum resonance scanner she'd helped design. After 6 months of searching for anomalous energy signatures, most of the crew had given up hope of finding anything interesting among the icy debris. Another false positive? Captain Rodriguez asked, noticing Sarah's intense focus. No, this is different, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The quantum signature doesn't match any known natural phenomenon. It's structured, artificial. Rodriguez leaned forward in his chair, suddenly alert. Asteroid mining operation, maybe. There are a few independent outposts out here. Too complex for that. Sarah transferred the data to the main view screen. Look at these patterns. They're like nothing we've ever recorded, and they're degrading rapidly. The bridge crew fell silent as they studied the cascading waves of energy. After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, humanity had begun to wonder if they were alone in their corner of the galaxy. Now, in the cold darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, they might have their answer. How far? Rodriguez asked. Less than an hour at full thrust, Sarah answered. But Captain, these readings suggest some kind of catastrophic system failure. If there's anyone out there, they're in trouble. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. Helm, plot an intercept course. Engineering, give us everything you've got. Dr. Chen, keep monitoring those signatures. I want to know the moment anything changes. The Horizon's engines flared to life, pushing the research vessel deeper into the darkness. They were the only ship within range, and while they weren't equipped for rescue operations, no one questioned the captain's decision. It was simply what humans did. As they drew closer, the ship's other sensors began picking up more details. A massive object tumbled slowly against the star-filled background, nearly invisible except for occasional flickers of emergency lighting. Its design was utterly alien. All curved surfaces and crystalline structures that seemed to defy conventional engineering. Life signs? Rodriguez asked. The ship's medical officer, Dr. Patel, studied her readings. Maybe. The hull material is interfering with our bioscanners, but I'm detecting temperature variations consistent with life support systems. They're dying, Sarah interrupted, her voice tense. These energy patterns, their main power system isn't just failing, it's consuming itself. Some kind of runaway reaction. Rodriguez stood, surveying his crew. The Horizon was a research vessel, staffed by scientists and explorers. They weren't trained for this kind of situation, but as he looked at their determined faces, he knew they would find a way. Options? He asked. Their power system is nothing like ours, Sarah said, but the quantum principles are similar. If we could stabilize the resonance patterns. She trailed off, mind racing through calculations. Using what? Chief Engineer Mackenzie asked. We don't have any equipment designed for that kind of power transfer. Sarah turned to him, eyes bright with sudden inspiration. The quantum scanner. We could reverse the sensor array, use it to project a stabilizing field. That's your prototype, Rodriguez said quietly. Your life's work. Sarah nodded, and it's the only chance they've got. The next 30 minutes were a blur of activity. Mackenzie's engineering team worked frantically to modify the scanner, while Sarah calculated the precise frequencies needed. They had one shot at this. If they got it wrong, the alien ship's power system would collapse completely. As they made their final preparations, a new signal cut through the silence. A transmission, structured but utterly unlike any human communication. The computer's translation matrix struggled to make sense of it, but the meaning was clear enough. A distress call, reaching out into the darkness for help. Ready, Sarah reported, her hand hovering over the activation control. Rodriguez took a deep breath. This wasn't just first contact. It was humanity's first chance to prove what they stood for as a species. Do it. The modified scanner hummed to life, projecting an invisible field of quantum energy toward the alien vessel. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the erratic energy patterns began to stabilize, the cascade slowing and finally stopping. New lights flickered on across the alien ship's hull. The transmission changed, becoming more structured. The computer finally managed a rough translation. Gratitude. Impossible. How? Open a channel, Rodriguez ordered. He squared his shoulders, knowing his next words would be humanity's first communication with an alien species. This is Captain Miguel Rodriguez of the Earth research vessel Horizon. We saw you needed help. How can we assist further? The response came faster this time. The translation smoother as the computer adapted to the alien language patterns. You are not supposed to be capable of this. Your species is listed as pre-quantum civilization. How did you stabilize our core? Sarah stepped forward. We improvised. Now, do you need medical assistance? We're not equipped for advanced care, but we're willing to try. There was a long pause before the reply came. You would risk further interaction, without knowing anything about us. Rodriguez smiled. Of course, that's what humans do. We help first and ask questions later. Now, shall we work on docking procedures? As the two ships began their careful dance in the darkness, Rodriguez realized that humanity's first contact wouldn't be remembered for advanced technology or complex diplomacy. Instead, it would be remembered for something far more fundamental: the simple decision to help those in need, regardless of who or what they were. The language of compassion. Dr. Maya Patel had converted the Horizon's small medical bay into an impromptu alien triage center. The crystalline beings, who called themselves the Nexari, lay on beds designed for human patients, their translucent bodies pulsing with what she hoped was their version of normal biological functions. Their cellular structure is silicon-based, she explained to Captain Rodriguez, gesturing to the holographic scans floating above each bed. But they're suffering from something similar to radiation poisoning. Their power core malfunction exposed them to quantum energies their bodies weren't designed to handle. The Nexari elder, who had introduced himself as first speaker Valix, watched the proceedings with multifaceted eyes that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Our medical technologies are integrated with our ships, he said through the increasingly sophisticated translation matrix. Without them, we assumed treatment would be impossible. Maya smiled as she adjusted a modified radiation treatment protocol on one of her patients. Humans have been practicing medicine since before we had technology. We learned to heal with whatever we had available. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. To demonstrate, she held up a container of dark liquid. This is a suspension of carbon nanoparticles in a saline solution. Basic stuff. We use it to treat radiation exposure in asteroid miners. Your biology is different, but the principles are similar. The particles bind to damaged molecular structures and help them repair themselves. Primitive, one of the other Nexari observed, but effective. The alien's color had already improved from a sickly gray to a healthier blue-white after just one treatment. Sarah Chen entered the medical bay, carrying what looked like a heavily modified tablet computer. The quantum scanner's original programming might help, she said. It was designed to read energy patterns without disrupting them. I think we can use it to map their internal damage more precisely. Maya nodded. Perfect. Between that and the carbon treatment, we should be able to get everyone stable. She turned to her alien patients. I know our methods seem crude compared to what you're used to, but sometimes understanding the basics lets you adapt more easily. First speaker Valix shifted, his crystalline form catching the light. We do not understand. Your species' profile indicated technological development far below this level of medical knowledge. Yet you saved our lives using repurposed mining treatments and modified sensors. That's humanity for you, Maya said as she prepared another treatment. We're good at working with what we have. Every human doctor learns that sometimes you have to improvise, especially in emergency situations. The medical bay doors slid open again, admitting Chief Engineer Mackenzie. He was carrying what looked like a hastily assembled device cobbled together from spare parts. "Got that cellular regenerator you asked for, Doc. Had to build it from scratch using some old tissue repair equipment and parts from the quantum scanner. But it should work." Maya examined the device with obvious approval. "This is perfect, Mac. How did you compensate for the silicon-based biology?" "Reversed the polarity of the bioelectric field generator and added a crystalline matrix resonator," Mackenzie shrugged. "Basic stuff, really. Just had to think about how crystal structures grow naturally and replicate those conditions." The Nexeri medical officer, who had been observing silently until now, moved closer to examine the device. "You created this, in hours, without access to proper manufacturing facilities?" "Well, yeah," Mackenzie replied. "We're explorers. Out here, you have to be ready to build whatever you need from whatever you've got. Speaking of which, how's the work on your ship's power core coming along?" "Your quantum field is maintaining stability," Sarah reported, checking her readings. "But we'll need to make repairs soon. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but the principles aren't that different from what we theorized. I think we can help them rebuild the damaged sections." Captain Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "First Speaker Valix, I know this isn't the first contact situation either of us expected, but I hope it demonstrates that humanity is ready for more extensive interaction with your people." Valix's crystalline form pulsed with what the humans were learning to recognize as strong emotion. "Captain, you have done more than demonstrate readiness. You have shown us something we had forgotten. That true advancement comes not from the sophistication of one's tools, but from the wisdom to use what one has with creativity and compassion." Maya continued her rounds, checking on each patient with careful attention. The modified treatments were working better than she had dared hope. The Nexeri's crystalline bodies were already showing signs of repair, their natural luminescence growing stronger. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "this could revolutionize our understanding of xenobiology, the way your silicon-based cells interact with quantum fields. It's fascinating. We could learn so much from each other." "Indeed," Valix agreed. "Perhaps it is we who have much to learn from you. We had grown so dependent on our advanced technology that we had forgotten the importance of fundamental understanding and adaptability." As if to emphasize his point, one of the jury-rigged medical devices emitted a series of beeps. Maya quickly adjusted it, her hands moving with the confident efficiency of someone used to working with imperfect tools. "There we go," she said. "The regenerator's harmonizing with your natural healing processes now. A few more treatments, and you should all be back to full health." Rodriguez watched his crew work, pride evident in his expression. Humanity's first major interaction with an advanced alien species wasn't going to be remembered for military might or technological sophistication. Instead, it would be remembered for the resourcefulness of a medical doctor using basic treatments in new ways, engineers building complex devices from spare parts, and scientists repurposing their research tools to save lives. It was, he reflected, a perfect representation of what humanity truly had to offer the galaxy, not advanced technology or powerful weapons, but an unshakable determination to help others and the creativity to find solutions with whatever tools were available. Diplomatic ripples. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tense energy as representatives from 300 spacefaring civilizations gathered for an emergency session. The massive crystalline dome above reflected the light of 1,000 distant stars, but all attention was focused on the holographic display at the chamber center. High Chancellor Ixel of the Meridian Worlds, their iridescent scales shifting with barely contained agitation, activated the display. The image showed the human vessel Horizon working alongside the Nexeri ship, the quantum stabilization field visible as a subtle distortion between them. "The facts are undeniable," Ixel began, their translator rendering their harmonic speech into standard galactic common. "A pre-quantum civilization not only detected a failing Nexeri vessel, but successfully stabilized its power cord using modified scientific equipment. This goes against everything we thought we knew about technological progression. Ambassador Kittel of the Silicon Concordat, their crystalline form similar to but more angular than the Nexeri, moved forward. First Speaker Valex's report is even more disturbing. These humans treated quantum radiation poisoning using primitive carbon-based solutions and improvised medical devices. It should have been impossible. Perhaps, came a new voice, we are asking the wrong questions. The chamber turned as one to face Elder Shen of the ancient archives, their holographic form flickering slightly with age. We measure civilization by technological advancement, but these humans appear to operate on different principles entirely. The display shifted to show Dr. Maya Patel treating the Nexeri crew. Observe, Elder Shen continued. They did not attempt to replicate advanced technology they didn't understand. Instead, they found ways to solve complex problems with simple tools. Their strength lies not in their technology, but in their ability to adapt and improvise. That makes them unpredictable, warned Security Director Vax of the militant sectors, their battle-scarred exoskeleton gleaming under the starlight. A species that can turn scientific equipment into weapons and medical tools into quantum stabilizers. They could be dangerous. First Speaker Valex, still recovering but insisting on attending, raised their crystalline form. I must disagree. At every opportunity, they chose to help rather than harm. They risked their own safety to save beings they had never met. Their unpredictability serves life, not destruction. The chamber erupted in overlapping discussions, each species adding their own harmonics to the cacophony. High Chancellor Ixel called for order using subsonic resonance patterns. We have another concern, they announced once quiet returned. Our long-range sensors have detected swarm activity near the human system. They appear to be interested in this development. A chill seemed to sweep through the chamber. The swarm was well known, a species that preyed on emerging civilizations, striking before they could develop adequate defenses. Their bioengineered ships and weapons consumed everything in their path, leaving only barren worlds behind. We must warn them, Kittel insisted. The humans are nowhere near ready to face the swarm. Their technology is centuries behind what would be needed. Are we so sure? Elder Shen asked quietly. These humans turned a quantum scanner into a core stabilizer in hours. They treated silicon-based life forms with carbon solutions. Perhaps we should not be so quick to judge what they are or are not ready for. The display changed again, showing Sarah Chen working with Nexeri engineers to repair their damaged systems. Look at how quickly they grasp advanced concepts, Elder Shen continued. They do not need to understand all the technology to grasp the underlying principles. Their adaptability is remarkable. It does not matter, Vax interrupted. The swarm has already begun moving. Standard protocol would be to evacuate any valuable technology and personnel from the human system. They are too primitive to defend themselves. First Speaker Valex's form pulsed with intense emotion. I must object. These humans saved my crew when their most logical course of action would have been to avoid contact entirely. We owe them the same courage. The swarm will strip their world bare, Vax countered. Their primitive weapons will be useless. Their ships are barely able to reach their own system's edge. How can they possibly fight back? Perhaps, came a new voice, we should ask them. All attention turned to Ambassador Lyra of the Free Worlds, known for their unconventional views. These humans have already surprised us once. Before we decide their fate, we should at least warn them and see how they respond. High Chancellor Ixel considered for a long moment, their scales shifting through complex patterns of thought. The motion is reasonable. We will send a warning through the Horizon's quantum communication system. Another piece of equipment they should not have been able to modify, and yet they did. We will observe their response before making any final decisions. As the chamber began to empty, Elder Shen approached First Speaker Valex privately. You seem troubled, friend. I fear we may be underestimating them again, Valex replied. When my ship was failing, They did not stop to consider whether they were technologically capable of helping. They simply found a way. I suspect the swarm may be in for a significant surprise. Indeed, Elder Shen agreed, their ancient holographic form flickering thoughtfully. Most species advance by building upon existing technology. These humans, they seem to advance by refusing to accept limitations. It will be most interesting to see how they respond to this threat. As if in answer, the chamber's main display showed one final image. The Horizon's crew, working tirelessly to help aliens they had just met, using tools they had invented on the spot. It was not the image of a primitive species, but of one that had learned to overcome any obstacle through creativity, determination, and an unwavering desire to help others. The question was, would these qualities be enough against the approaching storm? The swarm approaches. The United Earth Defense Council chamber was unusually crowded. Scientists, military leaders, and civilian experts from every corner of the globe sat shoulder to shoulder, all eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching swarm fleet. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, explaining what they'd learned from the Galactic Council's warning. The swarm uses bioorganic ships that can adapt to conventional weapons. They consume resources, including living beings, to replicate themselves. According to the Council, no emerging civilization has ever survived first contact with them, and they think we should just evacuate. General Santos asked, her weathered face stern. Leave Earth to these parasites. That was their suggestion. Captain Rodriguez confirmed from his seat beside Sarah. They believe our technology is too primitive to mount an effective defense. A ripple of angry murmurs swept through the chamber. Admiral Chen, Sarah's mother and head of the Pacific Fleet, stood up. They're judging us by their standards, but we've already proven those standards don't apply to us. Dr. Patel, you treated silicon-based life forms with modified human medicine. How did you do it? Maya stepped forward, still wearing her medical scrubs from the research lab. We stopped thinking about what we couldn't do and focused on what we could. The principles of healing are universal. We just had to be creative about applying them. Exactly, Sarah agreed. When we helped the Nexeri, we didn't try to replicate their quantum technology. We found ways to achieve the same results with what we had. We can do the same thing here. The holographic display shifted to show detailed scans of the swarm vessels provided by the Council. Professor Imani Williams, Earth's leading biotechnology expert, studied them intently. These ships aren't just biological, they're essentially giant organisms, she observed. And like any organism, they must have basic vulnerabilities. What if we approach this as doctors rather than soldiers? What do you mean? General Santos asked. Instead of trying to destroy them with brute force, we target their biological systems. Imani explained, every living thing has weaknesses, immune responses that can be triggered, metabolic processes that can be disrupted. Sarah's eyes lit up. The carbon nanoparticles we used to treat the Nexeri, we could modify them to attack the swarm ship's cellular structure. The chamber buzzed with sudden energy as more ideas began flowing. Dr. James O'Connor, a marine biologist, raised his hand. The deep-sea creatures we've studied that used bioluminescence, we could adapt their defense mechanisms to disrupt the swarm's bioelectric communication systems. The mining lasers we use for asteroid demolition, Chief Engineer Mackenzie added. If we tuned them to the right frequency, they could trigger catastrophic cellular breakdown in their hull structures. Admiral Chen smiled. This is exactly what makes us different. We're not trying to match their technology. We're using what we know in new ways. The display shifted again, showing Earth's orbital defense grid. It was primitive by galactic standards, but that was about to change. Teams of scientists and engineers were already proposing modifications, ways to turn simple defense platforms into weapons specifically tailored to exploit the swarm's biological nature. We'll need everyone, General Santos said, not just the military. Doctors, engineers, biologists, Even farmers might have insights into fighting these organic ships. "We already have volunteers," Rodriguez reported. "Every ship capable of reaching orbit is being offered for the defense. Fishing boats are adapting their sonar systems to detect swarm biosignatures. Mining companies are converting their excavation equipment into weapons." Sarah pulled up new schematics on the display. "The quantum scanner we use to save the Nexeri. We can modify similar devices to disrupt their neural networks. Every university, every research lab is working on adaptations. This is why they don't understand us," Maya added softly. "Other species advance by building better technology. We advance by finding new ways to use what we have." The room fell silent as the latest sensor data appeared, showing the swarm fleet growing larger as it consumed asteroids and small moons in its path, using the materials to spawn more ships. "They think they're hunting primitive prey," Admiral Chen said. "But they've never faced humans before. We don't need advanced technology to be dangerous. We just need our minds, our determination, and our unwillingness to abandon our home." The display shifted one final time, showing the Earth floating in space, beautiful and seemingly vulnerable, but appearances could be deceiving. All around the planet, humanity was preparing, not with super-advanced weapons or powerful warships, but with adapted mining tools, modified medical treatments, and repurposed civilian equipment. Fishing boats were being fitted with biological sensors, their sonar systems recalibrated to detect and track swarm vessels. Research satellites were being transformed into weapon platforms, their scientific instruments turned to new purposes. Even weather control systems were being modified, prepared to turn the planet's own atmosphere into a weapon against the invaders. "Send word to the Council," General Santos ordered. "Tell them humanity appreciates their warning. But we will not be evacuating. Earth is our home, and we will defend it. Not with advanced technology, but with human ingenuity, determination, and our unwavering will to survive." As the message was transmitted, Sarah looked at the approaching swarm fleet again. They were about to learn what the Nexeri had discovered. That humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to face impossible odds with creativity, courage, and an unshakable determination to protect their own. The swarm was coming, expecting easy prey. Instead, they would find a species that had turned their entire civilization into a weapon, not through advanced technology, but through the uniquely human traits of adaptability, creativity, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Unity's edge. The swarm arrived at the edge of the solar system, exactly as predicted, their bioorganic ships consuming Kuiper Belt objects as they advanced. In the Galactic Council's observation chamber, representatives watched with grim fascination. They had seen this scenario play out before. An emerging civilization about to be consumed by the galaxy's most efficient predators. But this time was different. The first sign that something was wrong came when the swarm's forward scouts encountered what appeared to be a field of space debris. Old satellites, defunct probes, and fragments of ancient rockets drifted seemingly at random. The swarm, programmed to consume any available resources, began to absorb them. That was their first mistake. Now, Dr. Sarah Chen commanded from Earth's orbital defense station. Instantly, the debris came alive. The old equipment, carefully seeded with modified carbon nanoparticles, began attacking the swarm ships from within. Their biological systems, designed to consume and adapt, instead found themselves being consumed. "The carbon treatment is working," Maya reported, monitoring the biological readings. "Their cellular structures are breaking down exactly as we predicted." But the swarm hadn't survived this long by being easily defeated. The remaining ships quickly adapted, their bioarmor shifting to reject the contaminated materials. They pressed forward, only to encounter humanity's second line of defense. A network of modified weather satellites engaged, firing concentrated beams of Antarctic algae-based compounds. The swarm ships' organic hulls, expecting traditional weapons, instead found themselves being colonized by rapidly multiplying microscopic life forms that had evolved to thrive in the harshest conditions Earth could produce. In the council chamber, Security Director Vax watched in astonishment. They're fighting a biological invasion with another biological invasion. Brilliant, first speaker Valix observed. They're using the swarm's own adaptive nature against it. The main swarm fleet arrived, thousands of ships strong. Their collective bioelectric field darkening space itself. They expected to find a primitive civilization cowering behind simple weapons. Instead, they found humanity waiting with every tool, every piece of technology, every scrap of knowledge repurposed into an unexpected weapon. Mining ships fired modified drilling lasers, their beams calibrated to match the resonant frequencies of the swarm's cellular structures. Research vessels released clouds of engineered phages, viruses designed to target the swarm's biological components. Even the atmosphere itself had been seeded with modified bacteria, ready to attack anything with the swarm's biological signature that entered it. "This is impossible," Cattell exclaimed in the council chamber. "They're fighting a post-singular species with modified mining equipment and repurposed medical treatments." "No," Elder Shen corrected. "They're fighting the way humans have always fought, by refusing to accept the limitations others place on them." The swarm, for the first time in its ancient history, found itself facing prey that simply wouldn't behave like prey. Every adaptation they made was met with a new, seemingly impossible response. When they developed immunity to the carbon nanoparticles, they faced engineered algae. When they adapted to that, they encountered modified bacteria from deep-sea thermal vents. But humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their repurposed technology. It was their unity of purpose. Every human, from quantum physicists to deep-sea fishermen, contributed their knowledge and skills to the defense. When the swarm adapted to one approach, they faced another, then another, each drawing on different fields of human knowledge and experience. "They're retreating," Sarah announced, barely believing her own words. The swarm fleet, reduced to less than half its original size, was pulling back. Their biological programming, designed to seek efficient consumption of resources, had finally recognized that the cost of attacking Earth far outweighed any potential gain. In the council chamber, silence reigned as the implications became clear. A pre-quantum civilization had just defeated one of the galaxy's most feared predators, not through advanced technology, but through creativity, determination, and an unprecedented ability to adapt existing tools to new purposes. "I believe," High Chancellor Ixel said slowly, "we need to reconsider our definition of advanced civilization." Months later, Sarah stood in that same council chamber, now as humanity's first official representative, the quantum scanner that had started it all. The one she'd sacrificed to save the Nexari ship had been replaced with an improved version, developed through collaboration between human and alien scientists. "We've learned much from this experience," she told the assembled representatives. "But perhaps the most important lesson is this: true advancement isn't measured by the sophistication of our tools, but by how we use them. Humanity doesn't need the most advanced technology to contribute to galactic civilization. We just need the opportunity to show what we can do with what we have." The chamber erupted in agreement, their various forms of expression creating a symphony of approval. A new species had joined the galactic community, one that approached problems unlike any other. They might not have the most advanced technology, but they had something potentially more valuable: the ability to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. Back on Earth, life continued. The modified technologies developed to fight the swarm were being adapted for peaceful purposes. The carbon treatments were revolutionizing medicine across species. The engineered bacteria were being used to clean up space debris. Even the repurposed mining equipment was finding new applications in cross-species construction projects. Humanity had proven that their greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their uniquely human traits, their creativity, their determination, and above all, their unwavering desire to help others and protect their own. The galaxy would never be quite the same, and that was exactly as it should be.